So what I did at the beginning right here was I opened up a new workspace. I created a folder and I put all my content into it, or made new content. I made an index.html, a style.css sheet, and an image sheet. I sorted it with exclamation enter, and you get your boilerplate. And then I linked a style sheet which is named style.css in this section. Looked at the image for a little bit, and I decided I was going to start out by making a few sections. I started out with 2 sections and I made a couple of divs. After I ended up setting that up, I found an image online and I decided I was going to open up Photoshop. So I opened up Photoshop, I selected my image and I started editing it. I didn't put it in here because it was kind of time consuming and it would make this video longer. So after I had placed the image, I sorted the image out and made sure that it stayed in place where I needed. I centered it. I said no repeat in case, it was not covering enough. And I told the background size to be cover. You have to have width and height set to 100%, meaning screen size. And then you move down to all your text. So I started out with text parent and then the first header, the first header. And I think eventually I started playing with colors. I didn't know what the color was going to be, so I decided I was going to use white, just like in the original picture. It was white. Unfortunately, the colors aren't perfect. The colors could have been better. So I ended up setting up a basic font size for everything. I made the bottom bar where it was going to have the QR code smaller, and with all the extra text is going to be smaller, while the I think that's the first header I made. So I made that probably like, I think 60 or 80 pixels, and then everything else I put it about, I think 40. And I might have varied a little bit extra with the paragraph. So I took the paragraph, I think I made it smaller, and I pretty much sorted everything out. So here's where I introduced one of my issues right there. So it says every time I tell it to go to the bottom and stay off the bottom by about 5%, it doesn't work. So I ended up reworking what I was going to do, and I created a new section, made a new class, and I put my paragraph in another div. And I went back to the CSS sheet and I decided I was going to style everything again separately. This is when I started having them issues, and I eventually got to a point where I liked the way the paragraph and the second header fits together. Obviously right here I have issues. And let's see. I'm about to start up on the other one. I couldn't figure out why this was black and doing its own thing until I ended up changing a few parameters because I mislabeled one of it. At the end of it, it starts off as a paragraph, ends as a header. So I had to go back and figure that out. Me waiting for Oblivion, and I decide I was going to side. So now the element is on the right side. It says scanned for, and under that we're going to do another one. I think I deleted that and called it scan 1 instead of it being P2. So I classified it this time as scan 1, and then I created another one, said scan 2. I still had the same issue with that, where scan 4 discount, which are two separate things. Every time I moved it down, both of the text moved down at the exact same time, and I didn't like that, and I had to figure out a way to make it work for me. I'm sure there's another way to do it, so I decided to just create specify both of these differently. I think I created an entirely new section or div for this. So eventually, yeah, I reset everything, and I say -80. And then I change it back to 0. Scan 4 goes up to 0 position at the bottom, and then scan 4. Now discount's got to get moved down, and I think I decide to move down scan 4 as well. So after I wait for an oblivion once again, I decide I'm gonna I go online. I go to this site just so I can get a barcode, and I look up a video. I was gonna do Rickroll. I decided to do just a wholesome swiper no swiper, swiper no swiping. I got this a billion pixel code. I didn't like it, so I just went to another site for a barcode, or I just used a different section for a barcode, so I get a real barcode. I put it into the images, and I decided to create a new section. I called this div image, and then I input the image, specified where it is. I named it barcode just in case I need it. I didn't really need it, so I just did final. I displayed it as block and relative, and then the actual image I ended up putting it as block, and the position is absolute. And then this is everything slowed down, so everything in this section was where the code started to work, where everything just worked perfectly. So I decided I was just going to keep this section in here just to appreciate the fact that something in my code actually worked. And it is about time, because it took me forever just to figure out some of these things. This one was actually one of the most difficult ones I have done so far. The other one was easier because I don't know, everything just worked. It was mainly just a bunch of text. I could color it easy. I didn't have to throw it into something like Photoshop. I had some issues where I had to figure out exactly why my image was getting shifted or shift around due to the other elements, or in particular the text. So I ended up just telling the text to be in position, absolute, and display block, and everything just started to work, where the image did get like shoved around, and I was finally able to put the image to the right side. Oh yeah, and at the end, I ended up noticing that I had a scroll issue where like everything was overflowing, so it decided to put a scroll bar in there. So I ended up fixing that. I took and changed the scroll bar feature by going up to the very top where the asterisk is, and in the parentheses I decided to put overflow hidden. So that's how you fix that.